Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conscious Conversations. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm the founder of the Transformation Center, which is based in Westport, Connecticut. And for those of you who don't know about it, it's really a center where you can come when you want to learn about yourself, because everything we do is based on helping you discover, who you really are and develop that self-awareness, so you can let go of your limiting beliefs, transform them, and really become the person who you truly are. And from that place, you can consciously create the life that you want. So that's what it's all about. So in addition, I do individual transformation coaching and healing sessions to the classes and workshops that we have. That's in addition to those. And we even have sound baths in the backyard. So I'm going to put up the contact info, and everything is really on the website, which is right here, Transformation Center CT for Connecticut.com. And you can email us, text, we really welcome your inquiries, especially if you're new on this path, on the spiritual path. We really have a lot to offer. So thank you for being here today. And I'm so excited that my guest is Melanie Barnum. Welcome to the show, Melanie.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, I haven't even met Melanie in person yet, but I met her through our holistic health practitioner group that we're part of, that Beth Lee started over 25 years ago. That's amazing. You've known Beth for a long time, right?
I have. I've been doing this work for almost 30 years. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Yes. So I'm so glad we got to connect. And, the group is called TLC, and you can Google it, just Tribe TLC if you want, because it's really a great place to meet a lot of different practitioners, because we all do different things. So it's a perfect place to get together. All right. So I'm just going to read a little bit about Melanie before we get started. I'm going to put up her slide with her contact info. I think this is the right one. Let's see. Hold on. Yes, great. All right. So Melanie Barnum is a psychic. She's a medium, a speaker, a life coach, and hypnotist who has been practicing professionally, like you said, for 30 years. Yeah, that's amazing. And look at all these books. She's a multiple award-winning author whose books have been translated into several languages. And they've been featured in numerous print, broadcast, and online media bookings. Gosh, that looks amazing. So maybe we can talk about a few of this later on. And in addition, Melanie also offers mentorship, guidance, and support for anyone who's interested in developing their intuitive abilities. So there you go. And there's her website, melaniebarnum.com. You can contact her that way. Okay. So again, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm happy you're here. You know what? I really am curious. I always like to start asking my guests, like, how did you get into this in the first place? Like how did you know you were a psychic, right?
So, it's kind of an interesting thing that happened with me. I've always been able to kind of read people, and I thought everybody did that. I didn't realize that that wasn't normal per se. Um, but I didn't really start doing it professionally until one day I was in my home and I literally felt like I was hit in the head, and I heard the words, "You need to do this work now." And I kind of looked around. At the time, I was the controller of a company. I was opening my own store. So I had my own business. I was totally left, right brain, different arenas here. And I kind of looked around wondering if somebody had just come into my home. And the whole time I was looking around, I knew exactly what they were talking about. And by they, I mean my guides that had come from the other side. And they were telling me I needed to do this work, this psychic work, to bring it to other people and to begin doing this myself. And, I wasn't just going to hang out a shingle that said psychic. So I set about to learn and study. And I did that by taking classes with local psychics, and also taking classes with famous psychics, people from all over the world. And I realized between the classes and reading and, all the great books that are out there, I realized that I really did feel comfortable doing this and it felt right to me. And I was pretty good at it. So I started offering free readings way back when the internet was, green letters on a computer. And that's how I began. And it's kind of blossomed over the years.
I would say, yes, definitely. Well, that's amazing. So it just like happened pretty suddenly that you knew that this was your calling.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it took about 3 years of training and practicing before I really said, okay, I can do this. I am pretty good at this. I really enjoy it. My clients seem to enjoy it. And then, I hung up that shingle that said psychic.
So is it mainly that you do it remotely, or do you have a place where you also meet people in person?
So for, I don't know, 15 to 20 years, I had office space and I did in-person readings. I did group events. I also do a lot of other things. I'm certified in past life regression and holistic healing and hypnosis. So, I would see a lot of people to do all different types of things in that office. But during COVID, as with so many others, I couldn't see people. I could not, legally, I couldn't have people come into my office at the time. And I went for a year and a half without being able to see people in person. And so I started doing things online with everybody. And, I've always done phone sessions. I've always offered Zoom or FaceTime sessions. And nobody really seemed to mind. For the few people that wanted in person, they realized that, a Zoom session or a FaceTime session could work just as well. And I decided when my lease was up to close down my office. So I haven't done it since COVID. I haven't seen in-person clients.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you that it's whatever we do, whatever our modality is, it's just as effective remotely.
Absolutely.
You
I mean, I have
and
clients all over the world, and it doesn't matter where they are. Doesn't matter what country they're in. It doesn't matter, how far away they are distance wise. It's the energy. We're all connected through energy. So
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because healing, all of that, it works just as well. And personally, I think Zoom has been a blessing. I mean, FaceTime is fine, but it just kind of broadens it. It makes it easier for me to do it on Zoom.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, yeah. I mean, I still do have in person though. I did because the center is really in my home, so it's not like I had to have a special lease on an office or anything. So that's worked out. Yeah, that's worked out pretty well. So when did you start writing the books? Immediately, or did you take a while? How did that work?
My first book came out in 2012, and my ninth book is due to come out next month in March.
Oh, wow. Should we
So,
show that slide again? I'm curious
sure.
about the books because there's a few of them on here. Let's see. So, oh, okay. That's the newest book, Real Life Intuition.
Right. So
You
my
want to
first
tell?
book was, my first book was the Book of Psychic Symbols. And you see that kind of in the middle. And that was kind of a brainchild of mine for a long time because people always ask me how I read others and how I do my work. And a lot of the information that comes in for me is through symbolism. So I'll see a symbol that represents something, or I'll hear a symbolic word or music. And, those types of things are psychic symbols that we all can receive. We all receive these kind of intuitive messages. And I decided to write about them and explain them. And the back of that book has a glossary or a dictionary that shares the meanings for over 500 symbols. But what I tell people all the time is that we all can develop our own symbolic journal, and we all should keep track or write down in some way what the symbols mean for us. Because, a turtle, for example, can mean one thing for you, but it can mean something entirely different for me. And take it a step further, it could mean something entirely different for a client. I had a client who came in who we did a session and we talked to a bunch of people from the other side. And, I had thought we had contacted her mom, and she said, I was really hoping to hear something specific from my mom. Do you have anything else? When we were closing down, and I asked her if she had any other questions. And I said, well, the only thing I'm seeing is a turtle. And right away she started to cry, and she reached into her pocket, and it turned out that her mom, before she passed, had given her a little teeny pewter turtle. And at first I thought it was symbolic because I'm so used to the symbolism, but I've learned, because she had put that in her pocket and told her mom, if you're really here. Now, usually that doesn't always work, but for this particular client, it definitely worked. And she had said, Mom, if you're here, please talk about the turtle. Now, what happens is, whenever I get some kind of information that I think might be symbolic, I'll say, I'm seeing a turtle. So it's either something very literal for you, or it means, this, or this. And so that way, whoever I'm reading for, I'm not just translating the symbolic information I'm getting, I'm allowing them to understand it, because it means more to them than it does to me. I had no idea what that turtle may mean for her.
Yes, yes. Wow, that's an amazing story about the turtle. Wow, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's not always quite that neat, because in the shamanic work that I do, there's also a lot of symbols and metaphors,
Mhm.
and yeah, you're right. We don't try to interpret everything, because the client needs to do that, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, we can assist them, but it's like it's special. It's special for them. Yeah, not everybody.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's so. Yeah, so I'm going to put this slide back up. I'm curious about the new book. It's just coming out. It's not out yet.
It's available for pre-order, so you can go to your favorite bookstore, you can go to Amazon, and you can go to Llewellyn Worldwide, which is my publisher, and pre-order it. But it comes out March 8th, and it's called Real Life Intuition. And this one's a little bit different, because in all of my books, I share stories of real psychic readings, or real, intuitive happenings. And then I also share exercises to kind of help people understand how they can, develop their own intuition. And Real Life Intuition, I do the same thing, but I'm sharing stories from other people. So these are normal, everyday people, just like you or I, but they're not professional psychics by any means. Some of them have never even thought that they, believed in intuition. And they're, waitresses to police officers to professional psychics to nurses, anybody you can possibly imagine. Kids, there's so many different stories in there that are from everyday people. And, sometimes they were like, oh, I have a great story for you. And other times they said, let me think about this. Do you think that this would qualify? And I'm like, absolutely. That was definitely your intuition at work. So yeah, Real Life Intuition is not just stories from my readings and from my personal life, but it's also stories from everybody else.
Oh, wow. I bet that's really interesting. Yeah, because like you were saying earlier, we all have that capability. We all have intuition. We're born with it, right?
Absolutely.
So you teach people how to develop it? Is that the case?
Yeah, so definitely. Some people I mentor, and some people I teach in classes that I offer. And we are all born with this innate ability to use our intuition. And we use our intuition all the time. We just don't always acknowledge or recognize that it's our actual intuition that's helping us get through the day, or that's guiding us in a certain way. So once you start to understand it a little bit more, that it's your intuition speaking to you, or your intuition showing you a path, you start to realize that you can actually call on your intuition and ask your intuition to help you more.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I can see that. So what would you say is the connection between our intuition and our spirituality?
So if I'm understanding what you're asking, our spirituality is just your belief, or what we believe in. And spirituality can run the gamut from, being religion within the spiritual concept, or it can be something totally different. And for you, it could just be about love, and how love can connect everybody. So spirituality doesn't have to be a big, huge thing when we're talking about intuition, because it really just depends on your concept of it, or how, you feel it comes into play. So a lot of times people that talk about intuition don't really say that they're spiritual, but then you have other groups, like I'm very spiritual, that will say that, I definitely use my intuition all the time, and I am spiritual. You look at the mind, body, spirit connection, and that's kind of how your intuitive abilities or your intuitive gifts work. They are a mind, body, spirit connection.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I know there are all sorts of forms of spirituality, like you said, but I guess I'm thinking of like, how we are spirits. Like
Oh,
we are,
absolutely.
we are
Yeah, we're all
spirits in a human
absolutely.
body, right? Right.
Very much so. We're all spirits. We're all connected to the universe. We're connected to the energy of the universe. And it's within that energy that we can tune in and get information, receive information to help us with our intuition.
Okay. I think, yeah, that's sort of how I think of it. That's why I was curious, because it's like it's the intuition comes from that part of us. It's not our brain, right?
So the way that I look at it is we use our brains in everything that we do, right? But our intuitive awareness, we have to kind of allow our brains to quiet down a little bit. And when I say brain, I'm talking about kind of that intellectual, rational side. And we have to allow that other side, that spiritual, that intuitive, creative side to kind of open up a little bit. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that when your intuition is kicking in, that you're not being rational and you're not being intellectual. It just means that you're using a different type of your brain, left versus right brain stuff. So if you allow that kind of analytical side to move away a little bit, then you can be more open to your intuitive side.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Okay, now I get it. Yeah, and like you said, everybody has that. It's just some people, I think, tend to be more on the left brain, the rational, structured kind of thinking. It's so interesting. Sometimes when people say to me, and this just happened the other day, well, I'm more into science. I don't, necessarily believe in this because I'm more into science. And I'm like, well, they're not mutually exclusive.
That's right. And when I first started doing this, I was the controller of a company. I was very left-brained. I needed to kind of open up that right side a little bit. And one of the things that I needed to understand and I needed to do was to find out how the science behind it worked. And there really is a scientific method that you can use to open up your intuition in a different way. And that's called coordinate remote viewing, or remote viewing. A lot of people will know it as. And that's actually, coordinate remote viewing is something that I was trained in, and I wrote a book about it. It's called Psychic Vision. And I show you with that book both sides, the science behind it, and then the kind of woo-woo psychic stuff on the other side of it. So the scientific method, per se, is the coordinate remote viewing that the government started. The government put together a program in conjunction or through Ingo Swann, who was a very special and very powerful psychic years and years ago, back in the 60s. And he worked with the Stanford Research Institute with all kinds of physicists and scientists to put together a specific protocol so that they could train their government and the different people involved in this program on how to kind of be psychic spies. And so there is a science behind it. And there is, the neurological brain waves and the space-time continuum, and how, there is no space, there is no time. It just kind of all folds on each other. And because of that, we can see things distant in time and space. We can gather data and we can bring it back. Do you call it, science, or do you call it psychic? So like I said, I needed to see both sides. So I went out and I trained in that, and I did a lot of training and a lot of practicing, and I wrote a book about it. So you could see both sides of it.
That's great. Wow. I had no idea before I asked that question.
There you
That's
go.
amazing. Yeah, so I love that. It's like there's something, it's something there for everyone because it does work, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's effective. So, we've been talking about intuition a lot, and I know, you do your psychic work. So how do they differ anyway, or are they the same? What would you say?
Intuition versus psychic ability. So the way that I really describe it, some people don't, feel like there's any difference. The only difference to me between intuitive awareness or intuition and psychic abilities or psychic gifts is that psychic, again, for me, not for everybody, but psychic for me means that you're a little more developed and that you're possibly a professional psychic offering readings to other people. Intuition is something that we use every day. It's the cop's hunch, it's the mother's intuition, it's that, gut instinct that you have. Like, these are things that we can relate to on a normal basis. Now, does that mean that you're going to go out and offer readings because you remembered to buy the milk at the store because your gut was, pulling you over to the milk aisle? No, but it does mean that we are all intuitive. And if you decide to develop it further, you can. Now, again, having said that, we can all hit a note on a piano, but it doesn't mean we're all going to be Mozart. So not everybody has the same level of ability, and not everybody will be able to develop it quite as deeply, maybe, as everybody else, or as other people, I should say, not everybody else. But it does
Mhm.
change. It's different for everybody.
Yeah, so it's a matter of level, like, and
Right.
and and some of that could be a natural ability, and some of it could be training or
Absolutely.
a combination of those two. Yeah, I don't consider myself a psychic. I haven't done any training, but I definitely use my intuition and everything,
Yeah.
personally and professionally.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's interesting how one, gets to that point. And I think, you're a good example of somebody that basically you were told this is what you're what you're going to do. And I wonder if it has something to do with where we are in our soul journey. Like, I don't know, do you believe that we come in this lifetime for a reason and to learn different things?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that we come to this lifetime for a reason and to learn different things. I also believe that we have free will. And so we can pretty much choose our path within kind of that text
Mhm.
or that
Mhm.
framework that we have laid out for ourselves. And again, we have the ability to open up to so many different things. It's just a question of what drives us and what we feel more connected to.
Yeah. Speaking of free will, and I'm taking this course on universal laws, and one of them is the law of free will. And I learned something new for me that, I mean, it kind of made sense. Maybe I knew it intuitively, but I didn't, or unconsciously, but I didn't know it. That if you like your free will, yes, totally, you can have it. And it works so much better if it's aligned with the divine will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I talk about using your intuition the same way that you're talking about using your free will versus, not, and using it with the divine path as well. I talk about it like fish swimming in the river. It's a lot easier if they go with the flow and they, go with the direction of the water versus trying to swim upstream, unless you're a salmon and you do it to spawn. There's really no reason that you have to make life more difficult for yourself. If you just start going with the flow, you'll feel more in control. Even though you're allowing that flow to kind of carry you, you're feeling more in control. You feel more aware and you start to realize that it feels right. And that's the same thing when you're using your intuition, it'll just feel right. And when you're going along that path that, your divine or your intuitive path, it starts to feel right. It resonates within you. And that's kind of when you know the difference that you're on the right path.
That is a fabulous way of describing it, Melanie. That, yeah, I totally resonate with that. And, so I guess maybe I was sort of aware of it, but I didn't really think about it. It's like just like things that feel natural, right?
Exactly. And
And
sometimes the things that don't feel quite so natural that you need to kind of dive into so you can understand them, and then they start to feel natural. Because we as a people tend to get afraid or become afraid of things that we don't understand. So once we start to understand that intuition is part of our natural state of being, and it's our innate birthright, it's there for us to use, and the universe wants us to use it. Once we start to understand that, then that fear starts to diminish. That fear starts to go away, and we feel more capable. We begin to feel more confident. We have more joy in life. It brings so much more when we're able to kind of get rid of that fear of the unknown.
oh, that's perfect. Yes, yes, because yes, it's just a human tendency to fear what we don't understand, or we think as humans we're supposed to know everything. Where did that come? We're not.
An oxymoron. Humans know everything? I don't think so.
No. And that's what I was talking to somebody yesterday about, just uncertainty and how powerful that can be. And it's coming from that place of not needing to know everything, that beginner's mind sort of approach. And I'm fine with that. I feel totally comfortable with that uncertainty. And it's not, it's not a scary place, but I bet you if I asked my younger self way back when, I bet you it would have been a really scary place, because I have, I always want to know stuff.
Right. Well, think about how you feel when you're like, hey, that's so weird. I can't believe that just happened. Because I was thinking about that earlier. Think about that moment when you realize that you had like this synchronistic event or something. It's a big deal. Even if it's something little, you say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened, because I was just talking to this person about wanting to do this. And all of a sudden, my other friend comes along and says, oh my gosh, I just saw this great class. We should do this together. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, how did that just happen? Those are those synchronistic events, and those are also part of your intuition and that connection that we have. And once we start to understand it, once we start to recognize it, it happens more and more often, and it's pretty amazing. You get those aha moments, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty
I know
cool.
what you mean. I love that. It's there for us. And it's like, I think that's the thing about that, about how you put what energy you put out there is what you get back. So our thoughts are so powerful, and our language, our words, but even our thoughts and our emotions, it's
Absolutely. If you get up every day and you say, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, I'm so tired, I don't want this to happen, or you look at your spouse or your partner, and you wake them up by saying, oh my God, honey, I don't want to get out of bed, I'm so tired, this is it's going to be a terrible day. What do you think you're doing? You're setting yourself up for failure for the day. You're setting yourself up to not have a good day. But if you wake up and you say, wow, this is going to be a great day, I'm not sure what's going to happen yet, besides the usual, I'm going to eat something, and I'm going to get out of bed, but it's going to be a great day. If you start looking at it that way, you set yourself up, like you said, with that intention of having a great day. It's so important to tell yourself the positive and stay away from the negative. And by saying that, I don't mean that there should never be anything negative. There should always be the dichotomy, the good and the bad, the yin and the yang, right? Because you need both sides to function. But you can't focus on the negative things in your life. You have to focus on the positives and deal with the negatives that come up, but focus on the positives and how well you're doing and how lucky and blessed we are to be here and to be alive, and to have a roof over our heads and to have food to eat. And even if you have to go
yes.
back to those simple things, the
That is
basics.
so that is so true, Melanie. And we're just about out of time, but I think that's a beautiful way to end it. I'm just putting up your contact info one more time so people can know how to reach out to you and check it out. And thank you so much for being here today. I loved our conversation. It was
Awesome.
wonderful.
Thank you. Have a
All
great day.
right.